All right, so we're going to go over to ArtStation, and we're going to plug in fire hydrant and ETSU. So you guys get to cheat because I've updated the way the class works, and we've been posting to ArtStation for a few semesters right now. You guys get the benefit of looking at all the topology of all the students that created fire hydrants before you. And that is hugely beneficial because I haven't changed the fire hydrant. All I have done is expect the fire hydrant to get better every semester. So let me start by doing something else. I'm going to take over to ArtStation, and I'm going to come over to my page, which desperately needs to be updated, which is not. So this is the fire hydrant I did in 4 years ago. So that would have been 2016. Now, what you'll notice is that it follows all the rules, and I did a little artistic freedom kind of thing with some of it. But if we compare this to somebody that did the fire hydrant last semester, Ashley was last semester, you'll notice that it's considerably better. And why that is because every time you make something, it gets better. And every time I teach it, it gets better. And every time that we can use the work of the previous students as a stepping stone, I expect it to get better. Does that make sense to you all? So this is what we're shooting for. This is an excellent example of good work. Now, if we do a quick count on this, or just look at it, we can see that Ashley has put this triangle right here, which now that you know, because you just spent the weekend playing with Booleans, wherever you put the triangles changes the flow and shape of things. So we'll look at another student's, Samantha Coley, who is also another example of excellent, and she also put the triangle there. But notice that triangle looks different than that triangle. It's upside down. So let's compare the way the geometry flows. So this one comes to a point here and a point here, but has this nice clean edge lope over here, where this one has reversed that considerably. Both of these are excellent, but different. So let's get rid of mine for right now because it's not even in the same caliber as some of these. Let's look at Jonathan Young's. His is a little dark. So this would be a good example of lighting and rendering done badly. He would have lost points on lighting and rendering. It's difficult to see his edge flow. Grayson. I don't know what Grayson's done. So Grayson's got a pinch right here that you can see pretty clearly. See that pinch right there? And you can see it is right there. But Grayson has a completely different shape up here. Look at, we have the triangle, and then we have this, which has got all of these things. They are all correct. Does that make sense to you? There is not one perfect way to do this. There are options that have their own things that are good and things that are not good. So when we start to look at this, one of the things that we're going to want to do is think about our count. This is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is 1, 2. This is 1, 2, 3. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's about 4, so that's probably going to be 6, actually, is probably what that number is. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is probably going to be closer to 8. So let's look at what some of these numbers are that I'm up here babbling about. And you're like, why is he counting polygons? That's just silly. I can count to 8. Other than being boring, it's incredibly useful. I'm just bundled up today. Are you guys cold, warm, comfortable? I noticed that half of you have hats and winter coats on, and half of you have t-shirts on. The half of you that have t-shirts on, burn, burn, I hate you all. Okay, so let's try this. Let's look at what happens when I try to do a cylinder. And now we know I don't need this whole view. So I'm going to turn off some of this view, and we've got something going, making my computer very slow right now. Please tell me it's not Zoom. No, it's this stuff. Okay. Okay, so let's find my Windows Workspace Expert, Window Display, Heads Up Display, Poly Count, Display, Attribute Editor. This is really all I'm going to need for what I'm doing today, for the most part. So the first thing I'm going to do is come back over to my poly cylinder. Now, the two numbers I had read were 6 and 8 for my base, right? So that would actually be 12 and 16, wouldn't it? Now, why would I pick 12 and 16 as good starting numbers?
12 and 16 are very simple. You can multiply them by a number of 4 to get them.
Exactly. And what does that give you if you look at this right here? Gives you an edge on an edge. Can you see that center edge? Which is very important. So this one is 16. And I'm going to go through and grab this. So what you can see is that I have these nice center points that line up like that, right? Now, when we come back over and look at our fire hydrant, we're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, we're going to notice that this one is much wider than this one. Can you all see that? But it is almost the exact same width as the actual base. Can you see that? So when I create this, what I can do is this one is right. So I'm going to hold down the X key so that I can snap this right to there. You can see it right there. So everything's snapped up and I'm still on my edges. And grab this object. Before I do this, I'm going to grab this, Control D, E, and J. Now, I already know that this one is smaller, so this is not the right size. So when I look back over at that image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to use what's called the artist's scale. You know, when you see the painters with their thumb up like this, what they're doing is they're measuring scale. They are not measuring units, they are using a scale to get something. So if we look at this, for say, if I hold up this piece of paper on my screen, what I'll get is this is the unit, the size of this. So up here on the big screen, it's 1, 2, 3 roughly of that. And the bottom is 1, 2 and a half-ish, something around there. 1, 2 and a half. So we know that the ratio is something around the lines of 2.5 to 3. Does that make sense? So I could do this all mathematically, but since this is just kind of loose, what I'm going to do is say that this needs to be about, so this is this big, so that's 2.5 to 3. So this just needs to be a little bit smaller. There we go. So this is now the correct scale-ish. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, I'm going to come over to shading, and I'm going to turn wireframe on shaded on. And what I'm looking for here is very important. Where do all of these lines line up? How do these work? What's going to be my easy mode, so to speak? Since I know I've used scale, if I grab this and I make it just a wee bit smaller, this all lines up much better. See how this is a nice vert right there? But I know that my scale is wrong. Now, depending on my ability as a modeler, my comfort, my need to finish this project in a timely fashion, and the importance of the object in the scene, I may decide that my topology is more important than my scale. If I have time and if I feel comfortable as a modeler, I'm going to decide that my scale is more important and I can work with this object even though it's a little bit inconvenient in size, something like that. Does that make sense to you? Is one of those right and one of those wrong? No, each one of those is right for their situation. So another option for this would be to look at something else and count. So I can see that this is 1 from my center point, 1, 2, 3-ish, something like that. Let's make another cylinder. And this cylinder, instead of being 20, the last one we did was 16. What if we drop this to 12? Oh, that's the wrong piece. That's the problem. Control H to hide. So what if we switch over to 12 and we try that again using our roughly a little bit smaller? Well, now I have a lot less things that I have to deal with. Does that make sense to you all? Now I still don't have a nice spot here. I'm probably going to go for something a little closer to that. Now I have an alignment, an alignment, an alignment, I'm gonna have an n-gon here, and or a polygon, I can see it. So remember that triangle that we saw? This is one of those options. So I'm going to do this from a side view. And in the side view, I'm going to turn on my shading, and I'm going to go to wireframe unshaded. Because what I really want to know is where this vert and this vert and this vert and these other lines line up so that I can do the minimum I want. Where are my important verts on this? That's what I'm trying to decide. I can pick and go to here, and then I've got to work with all this junk, but this lines up nicely. I can pick right here, and this lines up nicely, but none of this does. So I have a lot of options on how I do this. Is one of these better than the other? It depends. Yes, some are easier to work with, but let's go back to scale. So I said it's 2.5 to 1, right? So I've got my 1. Let's look at my big scale over here. So if I hold my card up, and I said 1, and 2, and then I said 2 1/4, 2.5, still right around there. And then let's come over to here. This is 1 and 2. So that's about right. We're within the margin of error. So either one of these could be pretty good. So if I come in just a wee bit bigger, I think this is going to give me some of my easiest topology, me personally. So let's go ahead and start playing with this. Object, object, Boolean, union. That came out well. Now, before I do my next Boolean, remember what we talked about history. Booleans crash Maya hard. Now, how many of you guys have ever ridden a bicycle? Okay, remember when you were like knee-high to nothing and you rode your bicycle off the curb and you would like hit the curb and you would 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 hit the curb, okay? The first 100 times you did it, nothing bad happened to the wheel. But eventually, you're going to dent that wheel, right? And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens with a lot of, like, 100 little pinpricks. 100 little pinpricks. So every time you crash Maya, even if you've saved, what you're going to do is you're going to prick that file just a little bit. Just a little bit. 1 0. 1 0 here, a 1 there, a 0 here, a 0 there. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to corrupt that file a little bit at a time. And eventually it won't open. And by eventually, I mean Sunday night at 11:15 when it's due the next day. Try not to crash. Make sure you're deleting your history. Make sure that you're paying attention to things before that. So I'm just going to go through, edit, delete all by type, history. That's simple, and it cleans up so much. Grab this and this, Boolean and union. Now, I have an n-gon right here. Can you all see it? Let's go ahead and file, save scene as. Why am I saving? Because something went right. I would advise you all to set up autosave for this stuff, because you will get to working, and then you will forget to save, and then you will be hosed. I'm going to call this OK Good. We're going to call it 16 and 12. And save.
We've learned about incrementing and saving it all.
Oh yeah, all kinds. I work on like a 5-minute incremental save on autosave, because it's just, yeah, it's going to happen. Now, this is going to be hugely problematic to work with. Let's go back for just a second and look at ArtStation here, and what we see is this one definitely does not have that 5-sided thing in right there. Let's look at this one. This one definitely does not have a 5-sided thing right in the middle there. This one definitely does not have a 5-sided thing right in the middle there. Probably done something it doesn't like. We're going to keep working because I love to take you down the wrong road as long as possible so that I can show you sometimes it's just better to start over, because I should start over now and try different topology, because I've just looked at 2 successful projects, 3 successful projects, and none of them looked like what I was doing. But instead, I know best, and obviously these other people that have done it right are clearly wrong. So I'm going to keep working. So let's see, what could I do? I can grab this, and I can say insert an edge loop, and nope, can't insert an edge loop. So I know the other day I did grab this edge and did an extrude edge. And then I came in here, and I grabbed this edge, and I was able to force it in that way. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. And then I'm going to do the same thing up at the top. And now, while I have not eliminated any of these 5 sides, what I have done is created some containable topology, right? I fenced it in so that whatever happens doesn't spew all the way over. And now, if I come through and I do an insert edge loop, or no, excuse me, object multi-cut, I can do 1, 2, G, 1, 2, G. All right, so I did not clean my topology after I merged it. So let's go back and undo some of that. But you can see I've started to create something here that might possibly work down the way. So let's come back through here for a second. Let's grab all my vertices. Grabbed all those verts, merge verts, merge vertices. Let's look at my size. And let's go to 0.1. 0.1, let's see how big that is. Over here, I have 172 active verts. I did it a little too close because you can see that one merged. So let's do 0.05. There you go. I didn't see anything that looked like it combined. And now I have 151 verts. Yes, sir? The front one did. You're right. Now, 154. Okay, we're looking good. So now if I do that again, you'll see my topology looks very different. Very important to understand what creates those different looks in your topology, because that's how you're going to use that in order to quickly solve your problems. So this slightly resembles that. Kind of a that. Not quite as good as this. He's used less. Let's keep plowing ahead because I'm super stubborn. Yes?
I'm really, like, there was, like, options are exciting. On the, so with the egg guns before, like, you messed with them, like, say, I was kind of curious what just straight up turning them into triangles would have done.
Depends. everything is different. There is no guaranteed reply to that question. So here we go. I've got this. I need to do that same thing we did here, down here, but look, this shape is different. So what am I going to do? Well, I've got a couple of options. Right now, you notice that this line doesn't quickly kind of line up with that. For just simplicity's sake, I'm going to do the same thing quickly, because I don't think this is the path that I'm going to stay on. I'm going to try some different numbers and do this all over again in a few minutes, assuming I have enough time. Because really, the best way to do this is to do it wrong 100 times until you understand what it is you're trying to do. So that looks horrible, but correct. Oops, look, floating vert, that is a problem. We do not want floating verts. Meh, not the worst I've ever done. Pretty far away from good, but not the worst I've ever done. Mirror geometry. So we've got some stuff going on here because it really wants to merge on this. So then let's just turn merge borders to off, do not merge, and everything looks fantastic. Then let's go ahead and go to my object mode. Let's go to vertices, grab all of this, and we can use that 0.01 again and apply. And now, if I grab this face, actually let's grab this edge right here and pull it. You can see it'll pull both, so it is merged. Everything looks clean. Object 3. Now, I'm going to turn off the shading wireframe, and I'm going to look for pinches in my geometry. I can see a little pinch going on right here. See how that doesn't look as smooth as in other places? But what's important is my arc is clean. I don't have any n-gons. I don't have a lot of edge loops. But this is okay. This would be called okay topology.
So when we edge loop in, like in the square mode, and we put it really close to like that center base, but then when we smooth preview, it just kind of like goes out. And I was kind of wondering why.
I have to say I don't understand that question.
The edge loops kind of just.
Why do the lines change when you smooth it?
Because remember, smooth is a preview of what the actual smooth looks like. So without the fencing, it won't hold its shape, and it will warp or bend. So for instance, if I grab this cylinder right here and I 3-view it now, what you see is all this bubbling right in here. What it's actually doing is creating this right here. So it's creating more geometry. And when it does, it tries to soften that, thinking that you're trying to soften it. So this is what occurs. If we go through and instead of doing this, we grab this edge and we do a bevel on it, so you can see that it's creating that same kind of edge that the smooth was. And that's what smooth does. It tries to smooth out those hard edges. Now when I come down and I do the 3-view on it, you can see the bottom is trying to smooth out all the spaces between this in between here. And the top understands that this is what it's smoothing. And this edge or this fence is now holding that from going dippy, 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 dippy. Fencing controls where your smooth happens. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Like, it does, like, that answers a separate part of it, but like, say if you go back and create an edge loop, and then you preview it, it seems like the edge loop, like, moves.
It does. It tries to smooth out the geometry.
Oh, yeah.
So if I put this edge right up next to this, and then I come back into the 3-view, you can see it pulls it all the way down because it's a representation of another thing. All right, so let's delete this. Let's go ahead and do that same thing, because as I walked over, I saw that last shape that you had on your screen, and I said, oh, you should probably start over, to myself. So I'm going to start over because it's such an easier task to do at this stage than in a few hours. So I'm going to do a 12 and a 0 and a 4. So remember the last one was 16, right? Now, we always want to work with the fewest possible polygons. And the reason for that is it's easier to work with less than more. Would you like to work with 50 angry mothers or 1? I personally would like to work with 0, but that is not the case. I have a mother and she gets angry at me. Fewer is better. There's no way around that. So, fewer polygons is better than more polygons. So I'm going to start with 12. And then I'm going to create another one. And this one is going to be 8. Or is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 6 or is it going to be 8?
8.
I'm not, I think maybe. J. So my scale does not change for this. I know that it is basically 2.5 to 2. So I'm just going to pull this down. Pull this out. X snaps to my grid. So first, I'm going to come through here, and I'm going to delete my history. Why am I going to delete my history? Because I would prefer not to start again and do this all over again. Because I can feel a crash coming on. I feel it. Do you know how come I feel that? I'm not psychic. I've had Maya open for almost an hour. It hasn't crashed yet. It's overdue. So, there we go. Grab this. Boolean union. Okay, let's grab this. Now, I'm going to pull back over to my side. Oh, that's so close. Look at how close that is. Isn't that a shame? Oh, that makes me so happy. Is it exactly 2.5 to 2? Probably not. But you know what? That is a thing of beauty. So, let's look at all that cleanup I don't have to do. Still can't create an edge loop. But I have a lot less cleanup work. Now, at this point, let's check our verts. I have 86 vertices. Shift, merge vertices. Now I have 74. That object needed cleaning up. So let's do that, undo that, just so you all can see it. Object 3. Right here. See it? 1, 2, 3. 1. It doesn't. You don't see it all there. All that stuff. So that's where that happens. So by doing the vertex clean, Q, merge vertices. Now object mode 3. It's all clean and beautiful. It's amazing how much work you can save for yourself by thinking. Computer science, yes, sir.
Remind me, how do you show the vert count again?
Over here is where I'm looking, and it's under display, heads up display, polygon count.
Thank you.
Computer science has a saying. 3 weeks worth of coding to save 30 minutes of planning. It is very true. 3 weeks of moving verts to save 30 minutes of counting. Count, look, think, count, look, think, count, look, think, then model. So right now, I am remarkably close to done with this shape.
To get the toggle to change the orientation, whether you're making the edge loop locally or just on the object, you actually have to just select the extrude tool from the, because I think on the homework assignment it was like 50-50, I would have the toggle show up sometimes.
So this right here, and then W makes the tool show up? What are you asking?
There's the little blue button.
Okay, so then shift right click to extrude, and then the blue thing. So it should always come up in, this is settings. I don't think it's going to give me any tool settings for this. I don't know. It should always show up in object view. Now I'm in world view. I'm not sure how to set it to have it show up in world view by default. We can definitely look that up. It's an excellent question. God, Mr. Livingston sounds like he's having fun over there, doesn't he? We should all go to his class. It's way more exciting than my class. Let's all be VFX majors. So have you guys seen the coolest thing? They are no longer using green screens and all that other stuff on some movie houses. They've got giant LED displays with Unreal powering them so that backdrops are real-time LED displays for movies, and they're just shooting it. It's super awesome. Let's take 2 seconds because I'm losing you guys. I can tell when your brains are starting to melt. So let's see, what do we got here?
There it is, right down there.
Where?
Or you see, scroll down a little bit. Oh, stop. Too far. It's unread. Yep, right there.
This?
That's what it looks like.
Doesn't it look a little weird when you're filming it, but on film it looks perfect or something?
No, it doesn't even look weird on when you're filming it.
I was actually just wondering how they did all this because I was watching the show.
So it's just a giant LED screen, and it's just controlled by Unreal. I saw this one.
Great, let's cut and reset.
No matter what the project is, the creatives always want to see the closest representation to the final product as early on in the creative process.
When I first walked on the set and the wall was up and we started to look through the camera, it really started to feel like I was just filming in this actual location.
We can track a camera's position in space in real time and render its perspective so that we can compellingly convince a camera that something else is happening in front of it that really isn't there.
The thing to keep in mind is that the 3D world that you see on the wall is also a 3D scene that you can manipulate in Unreal Engine. So this gives the filmmakers full flexibility to make any change they want to the scene live.
So it's really exciting to see that we can, use the real-time lighting to not only change the environments virtually, but also have it affect the on-set lighting as well. This opens up kind of like a virtual playground to shoot in.
We've tried to expand the engine to be a very collaborative platform, so the director of photography, the director, they can all go into the scene and make modifications as they wish, as opposed to waiting for months and months.
In this new frontier of virtual production, the filmmaker is more grounded into the scene that they're shooting, into the story they're trying to tell.
Because you can interactively change the world, it brings all of those departments together because each one of them has a role in how this world is portrayed at some point along in the production.
It's been my dream to get computer graphics to the point that they're totally photoreal. And
So that's pretty cool. So what they're doing is they've got a camera inside of Unreal, and then they have a film camera, and they've linked them. So whenever they move the film camera, the Unreal camera tracks with it. So you're able to do a lot of neat stuff. And if they want to change the lighting in any way, they can change it. And what's new about this, what's really cool, is Unreal renders in real time. Whereas traditionally, you would have to have rendered the entire scene and have it all there, and it just wouldn't be very practical. So what a lot of people will do is you'll see green screen. They'll go through, they'll film New York City, and then they'll have the super villain flying through it, right? This would allow you to film New York City or build New York City in 3D and then be able to film in real time and never have that disconnect. If you got a question about that, don't worry about it. Totally not related. It was a commercial interlude. So we're going back to counting squares again. We needed a commercial interlude. All right, so we have massive quads. Everything looks good. Object mode 3. Remember where I had that pucker before because I had more geometry? Now that pucker is gone. And this is feeling really clean. Now, I don't have any of those triangles that the other students had. So I've done something new and different. This is really nice topology. Now we've got the back, and we still got to clean that up. The easiest way to clean that up was going to be object, multi-cut. Looking pretty smooth. Now, it's only taken me 20 years to figure out how to do this topology like this. So it should take you guys like 15 minutes. So what I want you to do for Wednesday is get good, clean topology and make it work. Don't save.